I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Swerzik, and I have a brand new guest on the show in the studio. Please join me in welcoming Monty DeBoer to the podcast. Monty, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You've been kind of behind the scenes of, everything in marketing, which we'll talk about briefly, but those that have come to the shows, SHOT Show and NRA Show coming up now with the Western Hunt, they've seen you at the shows. You've been a prominent face in the Hornady marketing community, and we call you Mom, as your title would imply, the marketing operations manager. And real briefly, everybody would like to know what that means. What do you do, Monty?
I clean up everybody else's messes. No, what I'd say in a nutshell, I do all of our trade shows, apparels, accessories, all the logistics, pretty much all the moving wheels behind the scenes. If I'm not directly involved, I'm helping steer someone in the right direction so we can get to where we need to be.
Yep, exactly. And that might be putting in orders. It might be getting vehicles, purchasing vehicles, ordering lumber for us so we can build the backdrop to stuff. I mean, you are involved in so much more than just the marketing. And when someone shows up, at a trade show, because it's trade show season, they show up and they see our booth and they see, the clean carpet. They see everything clean, organized, set up, good looking booth. What they don't see is the months of work in advance that you've done to make sure all that stuff gets there. It's set up appropriately. You're showing up early. Everybody shows up and has hotel rooms. It's like there's so many little things that nobody notices. So thank you.
Don't thank me. Thank my ulcer.
Yeah. Right. Well, stressful job, but we get to do some fun stuff for work. And like I said, you've been at the behind the scenes for marketing for a long time. And glad to get you on the show to do another Hornady rifle builds for kind of throwback is the wrong term, but the 30-06.
We'll say traditional.
Yeah, traditional is the better word for it, because obviously a cartridge with well over 100 years of awesomeness is traditional and not necessarily a throwback, because it's just as effective right now today as it was 120 years ago. But there have been some new advances, with 7 PRC, 300 PRC, 6.5 PRC. There's all these new cool cartridges. But you still chose the 30-06, and there's been new bullet advancements, and that really breathes new life into some traditional stuff, is what you can do with new and modern bullets. So before we get into the individual build, talk us through why you selected 30-06 for this rifle and what you built the rifle to do.
Well, to start off, I bought this rifle in 2012. So at that time period, we didn't have a lot of the cartridges that we have now.
Right. We didn't have any of them.
It'd probably be a 7 PRC.
Okay.
But I've always been a 30-06 fan. Even back in the days before I worked at Hornady, I typically ran anything that was like a 308 or a 30-06. I was a big 30 cal fan. When I bought this rifle, it was nothing like what you see here. I don't know if you want me to go into definition now. So when I bought the rifle, it had different stock. Pretty much the only thing that's still the same on this rifle from when I bought it is the action itself. It was a 338-06 that another gentleman that I knew had built, and I wasn't huge on the 338-06, but I wanted the 700 action.
Okay.
And finding the titanium actions, they weren't very easy to find at the time, but
right. Well, neither is 338-06 ammo.
Right. And since we didn't load it, I wasn't shooting it.
Okay. So easy choice there.
Right. So for me, a 30-06 was easy choice. Well, to tell more about the rifle, to get into it, I went on a hunt in 2013, and it was for red stag in New Zealand. Well, when we were on that hunt, I was using a different brand of rifle, in 30-06, of course. And I would say that for being a factory rifle, it performed, but it didn't perform ideally as well as I would have liked.
Okay.
Well, lucky for me, another gentleman that was on that hunt, his name was Richard Churchley. He works or owns Red Hawk Rifles out of Colorado. And we were talking about after our hunt, and we were visiting, and we were hunting paradise ducks and kind of had some free time on our hands in between. and he made the comment that he could build me a better rifle than the one I was currently using on that hunt. And we got to visiting more and more about it, and, kind of developed a friendship out of the deal. And long story short, he's like, when we get home, I told him I had a 30-06. Well, it was a 30-06 because I just rebarreled it, but it was nothing special.
Okay.
And he's like, well, send me your rifle. And, we worked out a deal to where I sent my rifle off to him. And it was a nice rifle before. And I mean, it shot well, but it wasn't anything like it is now. So I sent it off to him. It's got a Douglas air gauged barrel on it. He fluted the barrel, fluted the action, skeletonized the bolt.
He really dressed it up.
Oh, yeah. Took the stock off that I had, put a milling edge on it. Built the muzzle brake, and you can't even see the line from where the machining on it is perfect.
Fantastic.
They cryogenically froze it to temper it.
Yep. So it went from, somebody built a 338-06 to, chambered in 30-06, rebarreled it, to now it's completely decked out. And it sounds like, based on the beginning of that story, Monty, that you built the rifle to be an around-the-world, I'm going hunting rifle. As you were talking about, you're hunting red stag in New Zealand. Since you've been to many places around the world, which we'll get to later, but sounds like this was selected, the components and the build and the cartridge was, you need a rifle that you can always have dialed in, reach in the safe, go anywhere you want.
Right. And the best part about it, you have a 30-06. It doesn't really matter where you go in the world. Chances are they snag your ammo, you can find ammo.
You definitely can. I've seen 30-06 everywhere. And yeah, we've only had 120 years to get it, spread around the world.
The 338 Advanced Rifle Cartridge. Purposefully designed for hard-hitting subsonic performance, the 338R delivers 1.5 times more energy than the 300 Blackout subsonic. Featuring the 307-grain Sub-X bullet in the subsonic line and the 175-grain hollow point in Hornady Black. The big little cartridge that packs a punch. The 338 ARC from Hornady.
So to go in a little bit more detail to the build now, so you said you bought it as a complete rifle, and you mentioned that the Remington 700 Ti, those were, they're relatively unobtainium now. You might find one on Gunbroker, so that in and of itself had a little allure to it because it's super light. That had to be probably the biggest draw to it.
Oh, definitely. As soon as I heard that was the rifle that was for sale and they were giving us the specs on it.
Yeah.
My ears perked right up. I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
I'll take it.
And then we discussed the price after. But
So you go with the Remington 700. And at the time, 2012, 2013, the aftermarket support for almost any other action type, flat bottom receiver stuff like Winchesters and Howas and Weatherbys and stuff like that, that wasn't really there. The aftermarket action, there was only a handful. So to get a Remington 700 meant you had the world is your oyster for aftermarket parts, triggers, and stocks. And everybody makes Remington 700 parts. So that was the easy button for sure. It's hard to think of that landscape.
It's the small block 350 of rifles.
Yeah, fellow car guy. Yeah, the small block 350 of rifles. And yeah, this one poked and stroked here. So moving from the from the action to the barrel, you mentioned this is a Douglas air-gauged barrel. And did you have a choice in this barrel? Did you purposefully select the Douglas air-gauged, or was this like, hey, we got this barrel, it's a good deal, we're going with this one?
So with me, I, at the time, did not know about Douglas air-gauged barrels.
Yeah.
And when I had bought the rifle, the guy had extra barrels with it.
Oh, nice.
And so it had that 338 .06 barrel, and it had the 30-06 barrel. Both of them were Douglas.
Okay.
And so
Keep
long
it in
story
the family.
short, the 338 got spun off, the 30-06 got spun on, and then, like I said, Richard and all them and their crew, they're the ones that fluted it.
Oh, okay.
Put a muzzle brake, and he's like, "You want it threaded?" I'm like, "Of course."
Yeah.
And that muzzle brake completely changed this rifle. I mean, the rifle itself comes in under 6 pounds with the scope on it. I mean, this rifle weighs nothing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't kick. I mean, my 13-year-old son could shoot it and not scope himself. I mean, in fact, he has shot it.
It's a pretty mild-mannered 30-06.
Yeah.
And that Vias...
Your ears are going to hate it, but other than that, it's great.
And when I looked down on here, I thought this was a Vias muzzle brake, but it is not. Historically, Vias kind of dominated the market early on in rifles like this. this looks like something maybe they make custom.
Yeah, Red Hawk themselves made that
Okay.
muzzle brake for me.
Yeah, because the radial ports, the Viases are in a straight line. These are slightly angled, and there's no forward ports. So incredibly effective at reducing recoil. I know you're a big suppressor guy now, but at the time,
At the time, that was as good as I got.
yeah. I don't remember being in the suppressor market that in 2012 or like even considering it, because I just assumed they're going to be really expensive and I don't want to deal with any of the paperwork. I don't want to get anything wrong. It hadn't been simplified yet.
Right. And they were all heavy. They weren't lightweight back then. And then when you have a 24-inch barrel already, then all of a sudden you have a lance.
Yeah. You could go jousting. Well, this one, like you said, 24-inch barrel, the flutes, beautiful, and an absolute seamless transition into the muzzle brake. So with the brake, you're looking maybe 25 and a half, just under 26 inches in total length. So not crazy long. And yeah, if you put a 8-inch suppressor on this thing, it would get a little long. So going back to this barreled action, we got the Remington 700 Ti, air gauged Douglas barrel, flutes done that looks sharp with that custom muzzle brake. And what's on there for a trigger?
This has a Timney trigger in it, and it's set at about 1.5 pounds.
Okay, so it doesn't get much more classic than that. The Timney curved shoe, so that's the Timney 510, originally the 510. I don't know what they call it now, but such a great trigger. One of the first like fail-safe triggers that I remember coming up in the industry. Like, oh, if you're going to replace a trigger, you replace it with the Timney 510.
Right, one of the few that passes the drop test.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you have dropped this rifle and...
Oh, this rifle has been abused, but it gets used. I mean, I didn't buy it to just look at it. So.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And it does look good. So if you were doing that, I noticed the Timney 510, the rest of the barreled action, you've got a hinged floor plate. Not into drop box magazines or...
It was all about weight. I wanted a lightweight rifle in case, weight hurts. So the less you have to carry, the better off you are. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you've lived that life. You know what it's like to carry heavy weight, so I can appreciate a lightweight rifle. Continuing on with the lightweight, the whole barreled action, I mean, it can't weigh anything. This is a nice thin barrel, plus the flutes, the titanium, super light, and then you said the Macmillan stock, and that's with that edge fill, they call it. So that stock is ultra light, but ultra strong.
Right. And at the time, I didn't know anything about the stock either. When Richard was building it, he's like, I'm going to put a Macmillan on it. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, goes, trust me, you'll love it. And I have to admit, he was right.
Yeah.
I've been a fan ever since.
Well, if the trigger passes the drop test, the stock does as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, these things, whether you're on rocks, sand, cactus, you name it, the finish on these things is obviously molded in here. So you're not going to wear the paint off it. And although they are ultra light, when you put a 30-06 in here that generally has quite a bit of recoil, they still handle it in your hand, that impulse coming back. I haven't shot this rifle, but I've shot a lot of Macmillan stocks, and they do a great job with that. So you got the stock, you got the barreled action, and to keep it ultra light, you had to make some choices for optics. And I see a really good choice. I want to say, I almost said classic again, because growing up, and if anybody had a decked out rifle, a lot of times it was in 25-06 where I came from, you had this scope on top of it. Or back then it was the Very X3. Tell us what you got for scope on here.
So what I've got on right here is a Leupold. This is, I believe it's the VX5.
3.
Oh, no, it is a VX3.
Yep.
And the long to the short, I wanted a CDS dial because I want something that I could rapidly change after I've, or not rapidly change, but
yeah, you could dial up. Oh,
right,
there he is. How far is he? 300.
The only thing that I changed that I kind of somewhat regret is I went with a rail and rings instead of before I had a set of tallies on there.
Sure.
And I probably will go back to a set of tallies just because they're a little bit lighter.
Yes, they are.
But when I changed, I had a different scope on here. And one of the many times it got dropped, that scope, I'll just put it this way, it didn't survive.
It's no more.
So then that's why I went with the Leupold. I wanted something that I knew I could drop it, I could abuse it, wouldn't lose zero, and would take a beating.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of beefed that part up a little bit, which gave me some weight. So I don't regret the scope choice, but I probably will change the rings back.
Okay, because right now you've got, looks like a 20-minute rail, with some, looks like Weaver rings on there, which doesn't add a ton of weight, but I'm a big fan of those tallies. It brings everything nice and low, and it's slick, it's clean.
Less moving pieces, just.
Yeah. So you went with the Loophole, the VX3, 3.5 to 10 by 50. And to me, that's, like I said, that it isn't classic. It isn't traditional. I don't know. It's for me in my generation, I guess, or maybe my geographical location growing up, I saw a lot of these, but I only saw them on like, oh, Dad's got that 125-06 and it's got the 3.5 to 10, because normally everybody had a 2 to 7 or 3 to 9.
Right.
So having the 3.5 to 10, oh, that's for
yeah.
That's
and then
for
I want the
long-ranging.
50. I want to draw all the light in.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, this was deer rifle on the side as well. So,
Yep.
I mean, for me, that early mornings, late evenings, I wanted to draw as much light in as I could.
Yep. And they do a great job, obviously, with any of their diameters. This is a 1-inch tube with the CDS turret on there, shooting 30-06. I mean, anywhere in the world, out for a long way. There's all the cool stuff that we've done, all the new technology and Ford off and stuff, but a system like this is really setting you up for the easy button.
Yeah. I mean, I used this same rifle just last January on a nilgai hunt, and it was 386 yards.
Oh, wow. And
So,
a historically tough animal to bring down at
Yes.
any range.
The high-speed 3-in-1 power case trimmer keeps up with your need for speed. Trimming, chamfering, and deburring 25 cases a minute. Built to handle a rush without compromising on precision. The ultimate tool for high-volume loaders. Set trim length quickly with macro adjustments and fine-tune with the Click Adjust micro dial. The high-speed 3-in-1 power case trimmer from Hornady.
So you've got the ultimate 30-06 ultralight hunting setup, but it's nothing if it doesn't have ammunition. So what ammo do you shoot out of it?
right now I'm currently running our 180CX in the outfitter line. I've always been a fan of the CX bullet. My whole deal is I want to know that I want to bust them up.
Yeah, I'm going to put them through the shoulder and I'm going to break them down.
I don't want anything to run off. I don't like tracking. Lazy, efficient, call it whatever you want. I want it to drop in place.
Yep. Or at a minimum, have broken shoulder blades.
Right.
Yep. But you can guarantee 180 grain CX. You know, the factory advertised velocity is 2,700. Your turret, I see, is cut for 2,690. So you're getting about all the velocity you're going to get out of that load. And yeah, you want to talk about a bullet's going to do some damage. I mean, 180 grain CX, that's not the heaviest 30 cal in the world. But because those CXs are monolithic, man, they hit above their weight class.
Right. We used to carry that 165 GMX, and this rifle absolutely loved those. And I would say it still loves the 180s, but for some reason, that 165 grain weight was really the sweet spot on this rifle.
Yep.
But, you know, sometimes bigger is better. So
yeah,
it likes the 180 enough for me.
Well, and after an animal like a nilgai, which is, again, historically really tough to bring down, I would say, yeah, those CXs and the heavier, the better. But it really is a dandy rifle. Now, noticed no bipod, and you're slung up here. And what's the thought behind that?
My whole deal at the time was, once again, coming back to weight.
Mm-hmm.
I was never a big bipod user until here in recent years. My whole deal back then was I was going to make a rest, whether it was my bino case or my backpack, whatever I had, that's what I was going to use just because I didn't want to carry any extra weight.
That simple. So you got the sling, just the classic Hornady leather sling. Yours is a little custom here because as a logistics guy, you get some samples in.
Right. This is one of the prototypes that never took off, but
seen a few
I
miles.
liked it enough to keep it.
This is kind of I would say, the 350 turned into 383 stroker of cartridges here. You know what I mean? It's the 30-06, but it's not just a 30-06. This is Douglas air gauge barrel on a titanium action with a Macmillan stock and a Timney trigger with this really beautiful machine work. Like this is the 383 stroker of 30-06s here.
Yeah, it's definitely a rifle that's worth holding on to and passing down someday.
Yep.
And I've probably, over the years, I've killed more animals with this rifle than any other rifle I own.
Really? Well, let's talk about that. So you built it as your ultra lightweight. Anywhere I'm going, I can take this 30-06 and be comfortable with it. What are some of the more memorable animals and hunts that you've taken or been a part of with this rifle?
Oh, I got a really nice whitetail with it one year, and then that deer hunt turned into a coyote hunt. I would tell you that it wasn't very good on coyotes.
Yeah.
What was left of him, I recovered. But, and then from there, been to Oklahoma, shot pigs, shot numerous sheep when I was going for the barnyard slam.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those, I'm not going to lie. You go to those high fence places, and
Yeah.
it might have been a 4-H cast off or something. Who knows what it was?
But it looks cool.
But it was still a fun hunt. You know what I mean?
Those are important to do. They put a smile on your face, especially when you're sharing them with family or something like that.
Right. So, I mean, after, like I said, I went for the barnyard slam with it. I think I've got a Texas doll, a couple Corsicans, Barbados sheep, what else? Catalina goat. I mean, so all that different stuff where it's just like, okay, I'm there. Yeah, sure. Well, let's try it.
Yeah.
Just want to see what it does.
More than enough for that kind of job.
But other than that, it was my number one go-to deer rifle till, it still is. I mean, it's one of those where every now and then I'll still grab it out of the safe just because.
Sure.
I mean, I have so many memories with it. It's like, what's a few more?
Yeah. An extension of your hand at that point. And not just like a pretty nice whitetail, Monty. You went on a tear of knocking down good whitetail, especially back in the home ranch area.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the big 4x4s.
Yeah. And there's just something cool. And that the one I'm envisioning in particular is where the deer's on. I think it's on your left. Big box. I mean, those antlers go up, they go out, and then they go back up. Just this big box 4x4.
Yeah. And a lot of that's just right place at the right time. In the right ground.
Well, that goes a long way. And we didn't get into your upbringing, but you are a Nebraska native.
Right.
Grew up in the ranching community of Nebraska.
Yeah, I actually grew up as a kid out in western Nebraska in a little town called Hyannis. Lived there pretty much through high school, and then I moved east to Burwell, Nebraska, which is still very pretty much
the same
rural,
same scenery, different place kind of deal.
Where even if you live in town, you're still a country kid. There's just no way around it.
Yep, love me some Burwell.
And I mean, both those places. I love living in Burwell. I love hunting in Hyannis.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I addressed this on several other podcasts, but I'll make another service announcement that there's nothing there for anybody else. So don't come. There's no reason to be out there. So don't go there.
Well, you could also tell them if you don't know anybody, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, that's true. But I try to keep that particular region of Nebraska safe and sacred because nobody needs to know how awesome it really is.
Right.
So it sounds like you've had some great hunts with this thing. Obviously, it's been around for a really long time, and it sounds like it's not done yet. You've got some more hunts that you're going to do with it, and you've got some optics changes. We talked about keeping the scope, but flipping over to tallies. What are some upcoming hunts that you envision you might use this rifle on?
With deer season, everything coming up this year, I might have my son take it, just, kind of add a few more memories to it.
Notch in the stock there, huh?
And, there's other stuff that just pops up. I mean, there's possibly might go after Sitka deer later in the year. Or not Sitka deer, Axis, sorry.
Oh.
And this would probably be a good choice for that. So it might get to go along on that trip. Otherwise, I really don't know. I'm more of a
opportunist.
As opportunity knocks, I'll answer.
Loaded question. You get the shot out of a cannon grizzly bear hunt. Do you feel comfortable with the 30-06?
Oh, I would love to take this rifle on a grizzly bear hunt.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Well, Monty, thanks for bringing in the rifle. Thanks for walking over all the details with us. This one will resonate really well with the listener because everybody either currently has or has had in the past 30-06. And I know several people, actually, I'll take a short tangent here real quick. During the ammo crunch during COVID, we were setting up for the Dallas Safari Club show, and you were there like a day or two early. We showed up a day early to help get set up. The morning of the show, we're putting catalogs out, and you're there an hour early, vacuuming the floor, setting catalogs out. And I remember standing by our reloading table, and this guy, an event volunteer, come up and was just chewing my butt about we're not making 30-06. We're spending all of our resources just building the at the time 300 PRC and 6.5 PRC and the new 7 PRC. You need to spend more time building 30-06. And he's going on. And when I asked him some questions, and then over the course of 10 minutes, we ended up having a really friendly conversation, and he let his guard down a little bit. Well, come to find out at the end of the conversation, you know those steel organizer shelves that you can buy at Home Depot, the Husky brand,
Right.
6 foot tall? He said, I got one of those. The whole bottom shelf is 30-06 ammo. Like, you were angry at me that you couldn't find it on the store shelf. You've got more 30-06 than you'll shoot in your lifetime. I thought that was...
But we love those people. They're the best customers.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty ironic, though, that he was upset about that, but he had this huge stockpile of ammo. But I share that, only that I think he had 13 or 14 different rifles chambered in 30-06. Like, he was a 30-06 fanatic, and it's ubiquitous. It is to rifle cartridges what the 350 small block is to car engines. It is just the cartridge.
Right. And I mean, and for myself, once upon a time, I was one of those guys that I was trying to be a minimalist. It was like, if I'm going to have one gun and large caliber, do everything. I've since later changed.
You have done a complete 180, Monty.
But back in the day, I wanted just a few. Now I want them all.
You have seen the light. You know what?
The Hornady Trek Light Lockbox XXL. Constructed of an advanced impact-resistant polycarbonate featuring dual 4-digit TSA locks, the Trek Light Lockbox offers heavy-duty protection at a third of the weight of steel. The included 1,500-pound rated security cable with patented cable connector maximizes cargo space for up to 2 full-sized handguns. The Trek Light Lockbox XXL from Hornady Security.
All right. Well, I have one last question for you. It has nothing to do with this, although you could take it that way if you want. But we ask every new guest on the show a weird question, a loaded question, a hypothetical question. And the question is, if you were forced to choose one cartridge and one bullet combination for the rest of your life, now you could have 1,800 million guns. You could have all the guns you ever dreamed of in any possible configuration, but you have to choose one cartridge and one bullet for your hunting and your target shooting and whatever you like to do. Now, we've had a lot of good answers. A lot of people choosing 6.5 Creedmoor, a lot of 7 PRC, a lot of 308, a couple 30-06s, dirty 06 as it were. But a lot of good answers. We have a 9mm? 9mm, maybe a 223, something like that. So a lot of good answers, no wrong answers. Hypothetical, unlimited ammo, unlimited guns, one cartridge, one bullet. What's it going to be?
I would have to say, as much as it pains me, it would be the 6.5 Creedmoor and a 143 LDX.
Boom.
And that's probably going to cover everything I want to do.
Yep.
Might have to shoot a couple times on the really big things.
Yeah.
But if I put the shot in the right place, it'll still do the job. So.
Yep. And you've dabbled in long-range shooting, or the competitive side of it. I know you've done a couple matches, or got a couple matches under your belt. You can definitely do that with the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 143. And you got the bullet that's still going to perform terminally if you want to finish your barnyard slam or start on, if you win the lottery and we never see you again, you can do your actual sheep slam.
Yeah, or I'll be living in Africa. I'll come home to visit every once in a while.
Yeah, super capable there. And to be honest with you, Monty, that's a good answer. I would have guessed this had been to Africa.
Honestly, I've never taken this rifle to Africa.
Because you've been several times.
And the only reason being is either I was on a hunt and another company was a sponsor. And when it was for myself, I have a 375 H&H. And I bought it specifically just for going to Africa. And I've got a bunch of memories built up with that one too.
Sure.
So kind of.
Well, and gosh, Monty, you're a nostalgic soul. 30-06 and 375 H&H.
Both places you can find ammo.
Yeah, very, very classic cartridge selections for both. Well, I appreciate you walking through the rifle. Hopefully everybody listening has a much deeper, profound appreciation for everything you do behind the scenes that make this marketing machine run. Every time we do a new cartridge launch or we do new products, there's always the internet trolls and everybody else that, Hornady's just this marketing machine. It's just marketing hype and it's just marketing. And I always find it really funny because what they don't know is there's only like 10 dudes now. I mean, it used to be like 8 on the entire marketing team.
And before that, like when I first started, there was 5 of us.
Yeah. So it's like, that's high praise for as little of us as there actually are nowadays. And then, like you said, back in the day when you started,
That's a lie. There was 4.
You were 4. You were number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah. And you came in and did some heavy lifting, and the glorious thing, as the joke goes, if you're good at work, you get rewarded with more work.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like I was told the other day that I can never give up trade shows, whether I want to or not.
Yeah.
So I'm in it till I retire.
And even then, you're coming off the bench just for trade shows. I'm sure they'll try to weasel you into it.
Witness relocation program.
Awesome, Monty. Well, again, thanks for coming on the show. Listeners out there, let us know if you like this rifle and if you want to see more of Monty on the show. Monty's been to a lot of places, hunted a lot of things. So, Monty, thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode about Monty's 30-06, the rifle that he built as his ultralight, go anywhere, do everything rifle. We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.